Streaming live. Um, it doesn't show we're streaming live. There it is. I wonder, can I turn the volume off over here?
Mm, I'm not sure.
No, I'm gonna do that just to see, and I can re-upload it if it doesn't. Okay, so we're there, and let's go record on this computer. All right. Welcome to our amazing podcast for Spotlight Publishing House, showcasing Porchelle Tashi. I am so excited to have you here today. And your company is called The Author's Leverage. And as a thought leader, one of the things that I have always appreciated about you is the vision that you have to help authors really be able to get their message out to the world and repurpose their content using the tools and resources that you have. And we know that for authors, it's a big thing to get the book out there. It is such a huge thing there's a lot of energy and time that is spent. But where you specialize is helping them to repurpose the content in a way that they now have a course that they have fill in the blank PDFs. They have all kinds of different things that they can use to take their content and be used in many different ways and as different revenue streams too. So let's talk about what you bring to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, the name of the business is Author's Leverage. And I'm so excited that you have me on to share. It's like my honor to talk about these things. As a teacher, former teacher, I used to teach school. My joy in life is sitting with amazing teachers and experts and authors. And my vision for them is similar to what I've had for myself. I just would love the ability to show up and teach, and things are created that help to leverage and amplify that message. So if you've done the work of writing a book, your work really isn't done. And there's a lot of potential there between learning assets, experiences, ways that you can leverage your book and your expertise on a stage, onto a number of platforms that, again, are going to help you to amplify that message further and extend the life of that book, extend the life of your work into the arenas you really want it to reach. And so I'm excited to be able to do those things. And so, in a nutshell, I'm a strategic thought partner for authors to help them create learning assets and tools that are going to help to drive impact and income in the life of the author and the readers.
How beautiful. What grades did you teach when you were a teacher?
I taught high school math for about 8 years.
Ooh, brave soul.
I know. I taught high school math. It was definitely something new every day.
I'm sure it was. So what led you away from teaching high school math into this arena?
Yeah, so ever since I was about 13, I was always on the computer making things for fun. These were flyers or small little graphics or what have you, usually for church and for faith-based organizations that my family and I were a part of. And so I was doing that for free and for fun for many years. Was on a traditional path to become a teacher, which I did. And about my second year of teaching, while I was still doing these things for fun, someone asked me how much I would charge to do it, for them. And I thought, wait, you would pay me to do this? Get out of here.
Wow.
Like, so a light bulb went off. I had no idea about sort of this lane of creative entrepreneurship. And so that's sort of what lit a fire, if you will, at that point. So while I was teaching, I started to actually do a lot of graphic design, websites, and also I started to lean into video. So this is something I was doing while I was teaching for about a year and a half, 2 years, to up until the point where I was advised, just looking at what was going on, and then for myself, what I really found a sense of joy and purpose in was in this creative lane, if you will. And so I left teaching with the intention to teach on my own terms. I never left the feeling of education, if you will, or the importance of it. It's always still something that's rang true in my life, and has continued to do so. And I wanted to leave teaching, in that particular
Frame of
container,
mind,
and to
right?
explore what it would look like to create on my own terms and teach on my own terms. So this has always been the goal. And so I eventually just set on that route to become full-time in creative entrepreneurship. Started with a video production company, if you will, which was really just me. sometimes, the main videographer.
And carrying all the hats.
But I started to also learn about how to run a video production business, especially in corporate and bigger team environments. And so I grew my production company to a couple locations and really had a good amount of fun, if you will, and learning experience with helping a lot of large organizations create video content for their internal teams, for training and development, and for things like conferences and events as well. So my world got into very heavily into video production. And it wasn't until the pandemic happened when, of course, things shut
Everything did.
down. And like a lot of that really took a standstill to some degree and really left me, which I'm pretty sure others listening, left you with this feeling of like, what am I here to do, right? What is it that I'm really drawn to? What's going to fulfill me, right? I think that we all kind of had those questions in reflection during that time. And for me, I was very open to wanting to figure out what that was going to be for me, because as a creative entrepreneur, it's very easy to just be a commodity, right? You're just one of
One of
several
many.
vendors you can pick, right?
Right.
And so I really wanted to find something for me that was going to, again, just be more fulfilling and more aligned with my life purpose. And so going back to teaching, going back to education, a beautiful opportunity arose where I was able to help an author who had a book turn her book into an online course. Literally, that just kind of came up, and I said,
And the
well,
light bulbs came
yeah,
on.
the light bulbs went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is education, this is curriculum, because I have a master's in curriculum and instruction. This involves me also handling the production of this, and all she has to do is show up because she knows this material. The the juices are flowing at that point, and I really saw this as an opportunity to really give back to the amazing teachers and experts that I love, and create the opportunity for them to also show up and teach, and I'll handle all the other pieces. So that's essentially what I get to do and how I
It's a
got into the
beautiful,
space.
beautiful gift, and it's kind of a real specialized niche, truly, because I have seen even myself struggle with putting the courses together just because my focus is in a different place.
Mhm.
Working with authors to get that book actually out to the world, and we help build launch teams, and we create the social media and the media kits, and teach them how to get endorsements for their book, all this stuff that is here. And yet the conversation is always comes around. So this is just the beginning. A book is just the beginning. And what are you going to do with this content? How will you serve in the world? How will you get your message out? Because your book is a tool. It's a tool for growth. It's a tool for a lot of things. It reaches, the way we publish is a worldwide audience, but there's so much more to it. And I kind of laughingly tell my authors, it's not for the faint of heart. This is something that really look at the big picture and where
Mhm.
you're going with this, and really use everything that you have, whether you're doing a podcast, get it transcribed, whether and use it for other purposes. Create courses, do all these things that are so important to really help them and serve them to serve in a way that they can serve others.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, because the truth of the matter is publishing a book will establish your credibility. It always does that. If you're the one that wrote the
Always.
book on whatever it is, you have credibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have profitability, if you will, on that, especially if you've invested in this work to be done and to put out there. You really want to make sure that you do have a plan outside of just the book itself. What is it that this is going to be used for, like you said, as a tool? How are we utilizing this in your business, in your life, even in your existing work with your clients? And so there's a lot of potential there to really extend the life of your book and continue to keep the message relevant, right? By continuing to just be in conversation about it. And so it's really exciting what we get to do. And you're talking, I heard you mention, right? You can have fillable PDFs, courses, other experiences, whether workshops or in person, right? There's a lot of things that you can actually have in place. One of the things that we are so excited about as a new type of learning asset, all the things that I just mentioned, including a book, are all types of learning assets. But there's a new one that I'm very excited about called a digital workbook. And I feel very strongly that this digital workbook creates the opportunity for readers, for people to learn while they are doing the work. And this is something I feel like we crave a lot more in today's market of when there's so much information, you know what I mean? There's more information out there than there is time to implement it, to execute it, to make it part of your life. And that's really where learning takes place. And so creating an opportunity through something like a digital workbook, which we've done. I've created in partnership with a tech company. We've been able to develop these new sort of reimagined ways that courses, we've seen those before. It's a completely different spin. It's not your traditional PDF. It's not a fillable PDF or anything like that. Imagine a place where you go to one page, for example, and on that page, there's a video of the author addressing you very quickly on a topic or a section of the book, and then guiding you through an exercise, guiding you through that portion at the end of the chapter where there are questions for reflection. They're guiding you through those, and right on that same page below, there's a place to actually reflect and to key in your answers, to check off things that you wanted to take action on. All those things are there for you so that way you're in a place of doing while learning. And this, again, is a new way that I believe the future of learning is going to take on. And so that way we're not just sitting and taking in information, right? So, for example, you've probably seen online courses. I saw an advertisement for one the other day, which said, oh, you're going to have, you're going to get these modules and you're going to have like over 10 hours of videos to
And
watch.
you know what my eyes would do is go, no,
And you're
I don't
like,
have 10 hours.
oh, like it's just not working anymore. And I think we're craving opportunities to do the work, still learn, but make it to be worth our time and to be in an experience where whatever it is that you're learning becomes a part of your life. You're able to integrate it because you're kind of speeding up these aspects of learning and being in action. So that's one type of learning asset that's been so powerful to explore. We're exploring others at the Authors Leverage, just because it's not just these standalone courses, if you will, or just a workshop attached to your book. There's a plethora of ideas that we can explore, and that's where we get to get creative and figure out what that is. More than likely, it's going to be a combination of a learning asset and some multimedia. And so
I
we
think
have
that
different,
you're right.
yeah,
Because we're hit as a population with so much media available to us, it can be so incredibly overwhelming, and we only have so many hours in the day, and yet if something is speaking to us that we really want to know about, we really want to use this as something that we can learn, that these tools can override the distraction that is out there. And I think people today just need, let's fine tune it into something where I can learn quick, not have to spend 10, 12 hours on it, but just really be able to grab what I need to have, and have it also to be able to return to quickly and easily on my device.
exactly.
And so, um, and I watch this, I know it for myself. And if somebody says, well, you have a 3-day workshop that you have to start at 9 in the morning and it goes till 6 at night for 3 days, and my brain goes, oh no, I used to do those all the time. And I was like, oh, please no. And it's simply because of, our time is limited, and we have
Yes,
many other things ways that we need to serve in our world, whether it's raising our families or to get, being part of other activities. We can't be spending our whole, many hours every, complete weekend. Typically those are like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And
exactly.
I used to do those all the time, and I just can't bring myself to do it because it's makes your brain numb, and you don't really remember what they're teaching.
Exactly, exactly. Now, I'm curious just to ask you this question. How would you reimagine attending a workshop or a retreat like that, but you found it to be the complete opposite? Like what components would need to be if you still had to show up three days from 9 to 5 or whatever, uh, what sort of things for you would make that investment of time that much more worth it? Like it would be a no-brainer to be there.
That's a very good question. I think it needs to be much more interactive. In fact, I attended an author, actually went to Los Angeles for one of my authors to do a book signing, and she actually used half of the day for teaching but it was so interactive.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was very thought-provoking. It was quick, it was to the point, but full of juicy nuggets that you just don't
Mm-hmm.
walk away from and forget. And I know on Zoom that's difficult sometimes to really captivate. You've got, especially if there's a lot of people in attendance, a lot of times you have distractions, that come your way. And if you're, I guess I do it, I found I miss in-person events a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because you get to interact in a different way than you can on Zoom. You can kind of float around and meet people and give hugs and do all those things. So,
Exactly.
but still, it's a real blessing to be able to have Zoom, and so. I think it would really have to be a topic that I was completely interested in and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to grow with. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure what that would totally look like, because I find myself getting, oh, there's something over there to do,
No, but
uh,
I hear you loud and clear because I'm hearing that if it's interactive and that it's a skill that you really want to develop and get stronger in, those things are going to motivate you to be there and to for it to be worthwhile. I would also add to that that if I was able to show up and the expert themselves guided me through this process and I left with something built out with them, I left with my
absolutely.
work. What if instead of me
Something
leaving with homework, I was able
tangible.
to do the homework there.
Yes. Because
To
how
me, that
many
would
of us
be.
actually get that homework done? And if you can have something that you can really have to go back because you worked on it while
Mhm,
they were teaching,
mhm.
that would change the whole aspect of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And that's those kinds of experiences are the ones that are very delicious and exciting to create. And so with something like a digital workbook, all those components we just talked about are possible. It's just digitized. And in the same way that traditionally someone who creates a course doesn't have to physically be there to deliver the information each time, the workbook can do the same thing by creating this sort of work as you go, work as you learn experience. So
Perfect.
that way you're leaving with this is a skill I was very excited to learn. It was very interactive. I had the author right there guiding me through this experience. And I was able to do the homework right there with them without having it to be a to-do this later on. It's going to take up a whole other weekend, just to do.
Right.
So
And chances are you won't get it done. you know,
exactly.
but
Exactly. So all those areas is where I'm very, very excited to play. And it's just sort of naturally evolved into this space of really being interested in what the future of learning looks like for us. Considering that there is, again, how much information is published to the internet every day, you
it's
know?
mind-numbing, and how many books are being published every day.
Exactly.
It's into the thousands.
Yes.
And one question I always ask the authors that I work with is, so how will your book be found? If you're not taking advantage of every opportunity that you have, if you don't say anything about it, nobody's going to know it's there. It's not going to happen by magic,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why we're working on, those that love them and trust them, that they, pull together a street team or a launch team. They're going out to leaders in their field and getting endorsements, because these people will support them. Everybody, it's an amazing world we live in, and people want to support the work that somebody's bringing to the world. But if you don't ask, it's not going to happen,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, I have an author that's launching tomorrow. Many of my authors build at least maybe 100, 120 people for their launch team. And when they do that, it works so good, because every person that's on their launch team reaches out to the people they know, and they send out emails on their behalf, and they do all these wonderful things. And I've seen these book launches just spread viral for them. But I have an author tomorrow. He's only after months and months and months, he's only has 8 people on his launch team. And I speak to him about it, and he goes, "Oh, I tried." And I worry about that, and we've talked about it extensively. But there's more to it than that. There has to be, that you need to be able to. You've worked really hard to get this book to this place,
Hmm.
you know, And so how are you going to use that in the future to help you continue to grow your business? You know, it's more
Exactly.
than, it's more than a legacy piece. It's about the message that you're bringing to the world.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And to your point, it's really key to have a plan. So when you talk about having your launch team, that's part of your plan, it's part of how this is going to go out into the world. I would also just piggyback on that and say that it's also important that you have a plan around how you're going to leverage this work, what specifically that looks like. One of the very first steps that we bring any of our clients through is called a leverage plan. Just think of it more of as like a very deep strategic plan around how we can leverage your work. And
awesome.
oftentimes we're looking at four different types of strategies, or what I call leverage plays, like a playbook, if you will. And the four plans is possible for just about every type of work in terms of a book or in terms of a method or expertise. And these four types of plays are your B2C play, which most are familiar with, right? So I put my book on Amazon, one person purchased it, right? These are one-to-one transactions, your business to
Right.
consumer play. Then there's your business to business play. This is also possible as an author. How can your
Right.
business support another business
Another
owner
business.
or the content of it? Let's say some people go down this route of maybe having other people licensed to teach the method in your book. All right, this is a business to business play, right? And then the next step up would be a business to enterprise play. This is also possible. Business to enterprise, meaning that what if your methodology was synthesized down into, let's call it a workbook or a worksheet or some type of tangible learning asset that would be valuable to the entire user base of an enterprise organization or tech software company, or what, I mean, there's so many different ways you can go, but just kind of giving you this, that's the third type of play is now looking for enterprise plays where it might be a possibility that a larger organization, a larger entity could leverage your work, right? So one conversation with an enterprise player could
Right.
mean tens
Wow.
of thousands of
Right.
users now have access or are connected to your work in some way, right? And then the fourth leverage play we always consider is your experience play, right? What kind of experiences are
Right.
you creating? And this for whether fiction or nonfiction is such a huge play to really look at the experiences that can be created. You mentioned in-person experiences now and how valuable they are. You can do the same by bringing workshops, by bringing communities together to have conversations, to bring together collaborations, you know what I mean? Collaborators who can also come in and maybe bookend what it is that you're talking about. And now you guys create an experience around that brings people in person or virtually, right? These are things that, again, extend the life of your book throughout and for years to come. So, again, I just reemphasize that having a plan is really important. And these are the lanes that we like to look down because it gives such an idea for beyond just this one-to-one sale of your book and it's just one-to-one transactions that you're worried about. Oh, I need to sell 250 copies. You could, or you can get 250 copies sold through one of these other leverage plays if you go down that route more strategically. So those are the
Absolutely.
things that we also like to explore with our clients before we even build out a learning asset.
That is beautiful. And I'm so happy we're working together on, bringing something valuable to those that have taken all the time and effort to write a book and to bring it to the world. And in speaking about fiction, is that just kind of a side thought that kind of went through my mind because I do have a few fiction writers that I'm working with, and my books that I've worked with, most other authors have been nonfiction.
Mhm.
But what I'm seeing happening with this is that the authors are actually throughout the book engaging with the reader and asking, which character would you like to see developed in the next book?
Mm.
And they create an opt-in page where they put their name and email, so the author's actually building a readership and a mailing list. So that goes out, and people want to connect with authors. They really want to know, who is this person, because in perceived value, the perception of most of humanity is, if you're an author, you're really something, you know your stuff. And while that may not always be true, there's still, for the vast majority, they do know their stuff. And so when this author, I think she went on to write 20 more books based on the feedback from her readership, and because she kept them engaged,
Mm.
and so the expansion of what, as you talked about there's so much more that can meet the eye to make it really, really amazing.
Exactly, exactly. And I appreciate that. And speaking to fiction authors as well, there is a whole opportunity there that I think is very untapped around fiction work. So my partner and I are actually going to be hosting a workshop later this year, specifically around how fiction authors can leverage their work. Because again, it takes a very open, creative perspective, which is one of my favorite places to play. But just consider the thought that the storyline or particular story from a fiction book could outline or connect with the themes, let's say, of an organization that wants to develop a core value of integrity.
True, so true. And what I'm seeing with some of these fiction authors, you know, I always talk about the pillars of being an author and a creator in this way. And I believe a fiction writer has such an impact in the sense that they were able to spark the creative genius within others. And I think that is so vital because especially as we watch our children coming into this world, and I think that most little ones now are born with a device in their hand. You know, and you wonder about that. And yet if you can spark that creative juices as they become teenagers, or they're young, like from 8 on, to
Mhm.
even when they're little, but as they grow, you don't want them always to be connected with their device. You want them to be able to create that spark of imagination. And even for adults, we need that spark of imagination, because by sparking the imagination, we're able to grow and our mind relaxes into this whole different world. And oftentimes we get the answers to the questions that we have.
Exactly. I love that. Such a good point. Like the fiction authors have the ability to create a world for us to step in and imagine potentially what solutions could be there in a different world, in a different space. So I absolutely love, love, love that. So I will definitely keep you posted also when this event comes about, because there are just so many ideas that we have been able to see and imagine for authors who do fiction books. And so I'm very, very excited to share that.
Awesome. Well, we need to, wind up on this interview, but I really have enjoyed this time together. And for those that are going to listen to this, we we invite you to check in and to learn more about this. And Parshell, will you share with our listeners how they can contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website, theauthorsleverage.com, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn directly. And that's a great place to connect and see more things that we're up to.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. And for listeners, I'm Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing House, working with authors to bring their stories, their wisdom, their expertise to the world in amazing ways. And thank you. Thank you for being here today and enjoyed this time.
So did I. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.